welcome back. I'm freaking pumped up. We're in the office, obviously, as you guys know, obviously, but anybody watching, we're in the office today trying to get it in between appointments, staying busy. And that's actually one of the things we're going to be talking about because you got to stay busy so that you can be a motivation and a good influence on your kids, right? You want to make sure you're working hard so that they can see it and they see you as doing it like an example versus you just telling them to do something. I thought it was a good idea to talk about it because there's a lot of hypocritical not only parents but just people out there where they tell you to do something but they're doing something else. And so I don't know, man. I think we're doing a pretty decent job at trying to be some hardworking dads and take care of our families. And so I thought it was a good topic. So um, what do you guys think? What's the first thing that comes to your mind when it comes to as far as working hard? So, or actually just not working hard, being a good influence and being the best person you can so that your kids can, they're going to be seeing you. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of that?
Uh, One of the things that comes to mind for me was so Tim Grover, the author of Winning and Relentless. A lot of people know him as the trainer, personal trainer for Michael Jordan, for Kobe Bryant. He had a story that he talked about in his book where he was leaving, and his daughter was like, "Dad, like, why are you always leaving?" And he said, "Well, honey, this is how I put food on the table for you and the rest of the family." And then she said, "If I eat less, will you stay home more?" Right. And so a lot of people take that as like, oh my gosh, I need to be around my family, which they have a point. There's probably, I don't know exactly his specific situation, but one of the things that he said was that he told her that he was instilling in her the purpose of working hard and getting ahead in life. And he said that he was doing it for them. And ultimately, at the end, his daughter grew up and said, like, the example that he took from her was that if you want to be in anything in life and succeed, you have to put the work in. And he obviously became a very successful person, right? His story's so crazy. Like, if you look it up, how he got to where he was, super cool and super inspiring. And so that's one of the things that he said that he taught his daughter and his children, and they had said, like, from a young age, that his dad instilled that in them because they saw how hard he worked. But one of the things that I actually saw today, and I put it up on Instagram, that I think it really hits home is it said, someone said the worst thing you can do is teach your children that hard work doesn't pay off. And I think that's the difference. If you're working hard and you're never around your family, then it's like, well, what's the cost? What's the price? And I get that there has to be, there's no such thing as balance, but there has to be some type of harmony, some type of give and take. But if you are going to be away from your family and you are going to like freaking grind for 5 straight years while your kids are young, then you better make sure that it works, and you better make sure that you freaking make it, so that you teach them that hard work does pay off, because there's nothing worse than being an employee and busting your butt for 40 straight years, never being able to see your kids' sporting events or recitals. And at the end of it, you're still making less than 6 figures and you're barely making ends meet. That right there teaches your kids that hard work does not pay off.
Mhm.
And so I think that's something to keep in mind. But that's one of the things right away that comes to my mind with the example of Tim Grover. And if you are going to do it, you better go for it and you better make it, so that you can teach your kids that you can have it all, but you do have to sacrifice a little bit. So,
Yeah, exactly, man. Like it's one of those things. I mean, we know too. Like, I mean, our little ones are really little right now, but they're gonna come to a point when I don't know what age it would be or when they'll kind of have that realization, but they'll figure out who you are in the world. And you just want to make sure you're working your butt off to be like, I'm okay with that. I'm actually happy that they're finally starting to figure out how hard I work or whatever what status I worked for or whatever. So I think it's awesome, man, and that gives me motivation for sure. So yeah, dude, for sure, it's super important. What about um, would you consider like obviously like your kids are your wives, but like is it something you guys like actively like think about though, like as you're working, like not just the fact that they're your kids, because obviously that's going to make you want to work, but like the aspect of being an example, like a role model to them, something that you kind of want them to become as far as like being a hard worker? Do you guys like think about that, or it doesn't really come to your mind like that?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, like when you're working too, like something that helps is having pictures of your family nearby, and so it reminds you because at the end of the day, who are you working for, right? I hope it's for yourself, your family, and others. And so if your family's included in that, then you're obviously, you got to make sure you're pushing for your children and your spouse and whoever's in your family. Um, it's a huge deal because you want your kids to be more successful than you are.
Mhm.
And so you have to start them with some sort of foundation that you show them. And so if you don't have a foundation to build them upon, they can still become successful. But I'd rather start my son off certain principles and he carries that and he knows that from the beginning, you know? So I say for sure, I think about that. I mean, whenever I say goodnight to him, he's only 2.5, right? But he's like a sponge. And so I always say affirmations to him every single night since the day he was born, right? And I always say affirmations, the same stuff every time. And so for me, like that's on my mind constantly. It's trying to be that example. And so eventually he sees the example and then he can be the example for other people in his life. So I'd say for sure.
Definitely, man. I think it just comes down to like us, the parents. Like, it comes down to it's our responsibility to kind of instill that in them, and that um like, I don't know, putting in actual work and not just thinking that things are just going to come to you. It takes work, it takes dedication, and it takes sacrifice in some areas. So it's super important. I always now that I'm older, it's different. Like when I was younger, because I'm obviously an only child, and I just grew up with my mom, and so I'm spoiled. I'm not like bratty, but like I'm not gonna lie, I grew up spoiled. It was just me, so everything just came to me. And she did a lot for me. Yeah, she did a lot for me. And so and I loved it back then. I was like, man, that's sick. I'm like, I'm not chilling. Like, she'd give me things to do, but like some things my dad would call him like, what? She doesn't have you do this or do that. Like, oh man, like she needs to make you do this and whatever. And at the time I was like happy. I was like, well, good thing you're not here, because that means I could just chill. So in the moment it was like a cool thing, right? But as you get older, and what I realized was that she I wish that she did have me do certain things, because it would have kind of molded me into, like, I realized that I have to work sometimes. I have to do this or I have to do that. I have to do things for myself. Um, at the time, you don't think about it, but as you get older, you realize that those are actually important skill sets. And so it comes down to, we're the ones who are doing that for our kids now. And I would never want, Zuleika to be lazy or just think that she's gonna have her feet kicked up, chilling, eating Cheetos on the couch. I'm like, nah, 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 nah. Wash those freaking cheesy fingers off. We gotta get to work right now. So, um, what examples do you guys have? Like, maybe like for it could be like, your kids now, or an example, like a story or something of you guys when you were younger, when it came to like what things your parents had to do, or like things that they did to teach you guys certain things.
Um, so kind of like just an example, not particularly with my family, but one of the things that I think about on like a spiritual level is right, for those of us that believe in God. Like if you read the Bible, you read the scriptures, like Christ throughout his time on earth, he was always teaching. And he was always teaching, and not necessarily like, at the chalkboard, like as a teacher, like giving you a lesson, but in everything he did, in every situation that he came across. And he thought of that, right? He responded in ways that was constantly teaching people in whatever situation that they came across. So that's one of the things that I try, right? That's for all of you out there that are questioning if we really do this live.
I
No
know.
edits, baby. You heard um, but like that's one of the things I think about now. Obviously, I have a lot to work on and a lot to improve on a lot of things. But every single situation that happens, I'm constantly consciously trying to teach my daughter. and teach myself, right? Like think about like, oh, what could I have learned in that situation? Things like that. Even to down to a little kid when like they're, when Zuleika comes over and they're fighting over a toy, like what's the lesson to be learned there? But helping them understand and teaching them rather than just being like, no, you have to share. And like,
Yeah, exactly.
or
Or just
like,
having them fight like two pit bulls, like just
yeah,
like who's gonna win?
for real. Always. So my thing would be as a parent, um, don't miss out on a teaching opportunity
Hmm.
because once the opportunity is over, you miss the chance.
That's big.
And if you teach it in the moment, it will have a lasting impression. But if you miss the chance, it's not gonna sink in as much as it would have if you took the right opportunity at the right time. So I know I didn't typically fully answer the question, but that's just something that's been on my mind on that topic. Don't miss the opportunity because once it's gone, it's gone. And so take every chance to be able to teach true doctrine, true good principles that are going to help your children. So I don't know, Dylan, what about you? Do you have any specific examples?
Yeah. I had a thought, and then I'll give you an example. So it sounds weird, but it makes sense. I think of it as like training a dog or an animal. Like imagine the animal, I don't know, goes pee in your house, and then 20 minutes later, you're like, no, no, blah, blah, blah. The dog's not going to know what the heck happened. Right. So, like what Morgan's saying is you got to do it in the moment. Something that I do with my son, I try not to say the word no because I don't want him to be afraid of that word. So many people are afraid of the word no. And so I'm not the best at it, right? I sometimes out of reaction, like if he's gonna drop the, cup of water, I'm like, no, I'm like, dang it. But like something I'll do is I'll explain like, for example, if he's gonna like he has these pouches that are full of like mushed up fruit.
Hmm.
And when he was done, he put it on the carpet and we have a white rug and he stepped on it on accident and it got all over. And it was like strawberry and it's all red. So now when he's done, I all I did was one time I showed him, I like grabbed the pouch and I was like, all done? And then I said, can we put it on the table when you're all done? So now every time, every time he puts it on the table, he goes, all done, he starts clapping. Right. And so if I would have been like, no, he would have been afraid, right? He would have like, what do you mean? What's happening? I don't know. Right. So trying to be an example and teach him certain manners so he's not scared of because you could teach someone in a negative or positive way. And I'm trying to teach him in a positive way without being like negative to what he's doing. It's like, okay, all done. Thank you. Good job. Next time, let's put it on the table, you know? So that's something that I've been doing. Again, I'm not the best at it, but I'm trying.
Well, golden nuggets, bro, because you're a better man than I am for sure. Morgan knows for sure. I go automatically to no. Like I'm just like, oh heck no. Zuleika, grab her. Just kidding. I'm just like, man, dude. Like if we had white carpet, bro, I'm just picturing that. If we had white carpet and she put it on the ground, dude, she's got like some malicious intent, bro. She'll put it on the carpet, look me in the eyes, and just stomp it out. I'm like,
Yeah.
no.
Wait for you to walk
Oh
up.
man.
She's like, ah,
Yeah, exactly. Clean it up. I'm like, oh heck
yeah.
no, dude.
That's funny.
Anyways, that's good stuff, man. It's true, man. Honestly, like as you were saying it, I was thinking about myself and I was like, I could definitely react in some different ways. So this is realization for me too, man. I need to get better myself. So I know you said like you can get better, but I'm way worse than that. So thanks for sharing that. So anything for you, Morgan, do you have anything else you want to add before we end? I know there was an earlier episode this time. It wasn't as long, but did you have anything else you want to add, like closing story or closing comment or anything?
So I would say that I've had a lot of people in my life that have taught me a lot of things in certain scenarios. My mom and dad, just like every single one of us, have had situations, right? Um, for example, like my dad, parents got divorced, and I played sports in high school. And in high school, I was on the football team. And my dad was living in Utah, and I'm in California. And he talked to me about it afterwards because I didn't know all the details, but he said that he would work extra shifts. So he was self-employed, but he would like do extra work, right? That he didn't need to do, but it would basically make him have to work like longer into the evening time just to get a little bit of extra money. And he would use that extra money to pay for the gas to be able to drive down. And I think I talked about this before in a previous episode, if I'm not mistaken, but he would drive like 6 hours and put in the extra work, save up a little bit more money, use that money for gas, drive 6 hours to come see the game on Friday, drive in the morning, and then that night watch the game, go to sleep, wake up in the morning at 4 a.m. and drive all the way back to Utah. And so like a situation like that, right? Like that obviously shows like a love for a child that I think like most parents that are divorced, it's sad, right? Like some of them are freaking cities apart. And it's like, oh, we're divorced. And one of the parents just like decides to just act as if they don't have kids anymore. Right. And then they're like no longer in their life because the mom and dad are dumb and they decided to not make it work. Right. Like it blows my mind. But yet my dad, who was 6 hours away in a different state, put in all that extra work. And so obviously, I mean, I can go on and on about what the lessons that it taught me. But that is a legitimate, like real life scenario that I lived, that I was like, man, like that's something that I want to emulate for my dad, for my children, where no matter the situation, right? Obviously I don't want to emulate divorcing my wife, but like being able to, no matter what the situation is, sacrificing so that I can participate. Like for right now, sacrificing some time now while my child is young, so that in the next couple of years, my wife and I can be financially independent to where I don't have to sacrifice and work while my kids are playing sports and having recitals. And so putting in the work now, like my dad did, to show love by being there and spending time, because we've all heard it before. Love is really spelled Time. And the way you show love towards people is you give them your time and you're present when you're with them. And so that's one of the things that I really, really want to make sure. I don't want to be financially independent just to be rich. I mean, I want to be financially independent so that I can have my life.
Right.
And I don't have to be dictated by circumstances or a job or anything like that, to where if my kids got a freaking recital at 11 in the morning, I'm gonna freaking be there. And I'm not going to be like 99% of America where they're like, oh, I have to work. My boss is going to fire me if I don't show up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want that to be me, right? Some people might want to do that. That's fine, but I don't want that to be me. So I'm going to put the work in now so that I can have time with my family for the rest of my life. So anyways, that's just an example that my dad taught me, that I'm grateful for. And I'm trying to emulate that going forward with my kids. So
huge, big stuff, man. Likewise, man. Same here. We're all doing the same thing, man. We're trying our hardest and really to make our kids proud of us. Right now they don't really realize it, but later on, hopefully they'll be proud of us for all the hard work, or though hopefully they realize it, because it takes a while. Like sometimes it feels like we do a bunch of stuff and they're kids, dude. They're toddlers. So right now they don't always realize it, or it seems like they appreciate it, but the fact of the matter is we do it because we love them. We want to take care of them the best we can. And so I love those stories, man. I really appreciate you guys sharing. So anyways, shorter episode today, but nonetheless still really good, because what's more important than family and our kids and being a good influence and example for them. So I really love this one, as I always say every single time. You feel me? So, all right, guys. We got it up later, a little bit later today on Tuesday, but it's all right. Still, we made it though. It's all good. We're here. We arrived. So, all right, guys. Till next time.
we'll see ya.